criticism for not getting a ring. He followed up his championship season with a massive contract extension, and he thinks the debate on his status as an elite player is over. He said that a weight has been lifted off of his shoulders by winning the title. That's something no one can take away from him. There is always going to be debate about this guy needs a championship in order to secure this. This guy needs this. Is he the best player on the team? There's always we're in the business of opinions and debate. I don't even think half the time we fully believe what we're trying to argue here, but were we really ever saying that Jason Tatum is not elite?
I mean, obviously it depends on how far you're willing to stretch the definition of elite, but he was first team All-NBA.
Right?
There's only 5 guys who make that list. So, would I take him over Joker? No. Would I take him over Luka? No. Would I take him over Giannis? No. But then the debate starts. That's when he starts coming in. Is he the 4th best player in the league? Is he the 7th best player in the league? I do think that part of what is the case with Tatum is it took him a while to win. Not crazy, but he was competitive for a long time. He was winning playoff games. That's what Brad Stevens talked about in the championship celebration. He was like, he was getting criticism for losing in the second round of the playoffs when other guys his age were not even making the playoffs. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But also, this was a team. Boston was 1 through 5, an incredibly built team with depth. And Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP. And Porzingis and Drew, they all had, and Derek White, he got all-star votes, and he was all NBA defense. So, and he's the 5th starter on the team. So it's not like if Luka would have won, people would be like, oh my God, Luka. Or when LeBron won and he led both teams in all 5 statistical categories. Tatum is a great basketball player, but he's also on a great team, so he doesn't shoulder as much of the weight. So I think people are like, if Tatum was on Dallas and Luka was on Boston, would Dallas have gotten as far with Tatum as the main guy? And I think the answer to that's probably no. And so if that's your threshold for elite, then I guess it is still a debate. But if he's a top 5 player in the league, that's good enough for me to call him elite.
No doubt about it. He's also 26 years old. I think we forget how young he is. 26-year-old winning a championship. MJ won his first at 28. LeBron, 27. The timeline is adding up here where he could easily get another one next year, maybe even another after that.
Yeah, and he's in a great situation. We'll see how long they keep this very expensive team together, but it's basically an unprecedented amount of continuity with the entire starting 5 and a couple of key reserves coming back. So they're a deserving favorite because the East is easier, the West is so tough. They are the favorite to win next year's finals, and they should be.
All right, let's talk another favorite, Team USA, going for their 5th straight.
Welcome into the herd. I'm Danny Parkins sitting in for Colin once again. Absolutely thrilled to be here. And who says it's a slow time in sports? We have a ton to get into today. Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Good to be back. Back again.
Absolutely. They let us come back.
Your second day in LA, how was it?
Yeah, I haven't been in LA since I was 17 years old. The hotels are lovely, and the traffic's not that bad between the studio and my hotel.
Well, especially Chicago. I was just there a couple of weeks, and I'm like, LA isn't much worse than this.
I live in traffic in Chicago. So, yeah, LA, overrated. But you got your coffee?
Got my coffee. We're on number 2 today.
Okay.
So we're just starting out. This is going to be a fun one.
We'll keep an official scoreboard as we go throughout the show.
How about you?
I'm 0 cups for my lifetime career.
So far.
So, yeah, I know. You're going to try to peer pressure me into it. But we actually do have a ton to get into today. And we're going to begin with the world of NFL quarterback contracts and QBs getting paid and the great debate. Do you pay them? Is it too much of the salary cap? How much money should these quarterbacks get? And the reason we're talking about that today is Tua in Miami, the terrific columnist for the Miami Herald. He's covered the Dolphins for decades. Greg Cody says that Tua is being disrespected, and it's insulting that the Miami Dolphins do not have a contract done with Tua Tagovailoa. And I get it. He has absolutely done more on the field than Trevor Lawrence has statistically, and Trevor beat him to the bag. He got paid first. But Tua is an interesting case, and we can get into the specifics, and we'll talk about other guys. But the macro point here, the one that matters the most to me anyway, is they all get paid. They all get paid. because it's a have and a have-not league. It is very binary when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL. You either have a guy that you believe you can win with, you want it to be a guy that you can win because of, and that's certainly a smaller list. But if you have a guy that you think you can win with, and clearly the Dolphins, playoff team last year, Tua led the league in passing, they can win with Tua. You don't really have an alternative. There are more teams than franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. So Tua, he's undersized. He has an injury history, but he played every game last year. Is that something that I can guarantee you is going to be the case for the next 5 years? Of course not. Would I love it if my team gave Tua $250+ million? No. But the alternative to paying Tua is Skylar Thompson. That's the reality of the situation. Like, you either have a guy that's good enough to pay and you pay him, or you don't pay him and 3 or 4 other teams will line up to pay him. The Falcons had Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder. They fell all over themselves. They tampered in order to pay Kirk Cousins, 35 years old, $100 million guaranteed, coming off a ruptured Achilles. So Tua, it's 2 weeks until the start of Dolphins training camp today. He'll get paid. Maybe, just maybe, he'll have to go into the 5th year and there will be a franchise tag in the future. Maybe. My guess is he gets that contract extension done to avoid the distraction before training camp starts in a couple of weeks, or at the latest before the regular season begins. But it's not disrespectful or insulting to take your time on these things when they all ultimately end up getting done. And the numbers are so drastic in Miami with Tua and without Tua that they can't afford to take the risk that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel are good enough where any quarterback could go in, because we've seen it. When it was Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson, that passer rating fell from over 100 to under 60. The winning record, the 19-12, the playoff appearance, it goes to 1-4. There are, for my money, 2 coaches in the NFL where you could make an argument and you could say, whoever our quarterback is, this coach will get the absolute most out of him. Obviously, it's Andy Reid in Kansas City. Now, they don't have to worry about that because they've got Patrick Mahomes. But you go through Andy Reid's history, Jeff Garcia, Mike Vick, Kevin Cobb, Alex Smith, Donovan McNabb, the best seasons of their career all came with Andy Reid. So it's obviously you're happy to pay Patrick Mahomes. You're happy to pay the most talented quarterback in the history of the position. But in Kansas City, at some point, if Carson Wentz had to play, they could reasonably say, whatever the best version of this Carson Wentz is, we know that Andy Reid is going to get that out of him. So that changes the calculus a little bit as long as they have Andy Reid. And then the other one is San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan, because paying Purdy is a tricky one. He's got Trent Williams, and he's got Debo, and he's got McCaffrey, and he's got Kittle, and for now he has Ayuk. But he also has a coach in Kyle Shanahan that got Matt Ryan an MVP as a coordinator, that got Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl, that got Brock Purdy into the MVP conversation and winning playoff games and him into a Super Bowl. So if he can get literally the last pick in the draft into a Super Bowl and into the MVP conversation, in San Francisco next year when they have to pay Purdy, they'll have frank discussions. It'll be the owner, the GM, the coach in a room, and they'll be like, all right, Kyle, can you do this with anyone? Be honest with us, because you didn't think you could do it with anyone after Jimmy G traded 3 first-round picks to go up and take a kid who played FCS ball in Trey Lance. But then you did it with the fallback plan of Brock Purdy. Do we need to pay this guy $55 million a year? Or can you do it with next year's Mr. Irrelevant, or a first-round pick, or a third-round pick, or whomever? San Francisco's got an argument not to pay their guy 20% of the salary cap, 15% of the salary cap. They got an argument for that. Kansas City, they're happy to pay Mahomes, but their coach is good enough that there'd be an argument there. Mike McDaniel, love him as a coach, creative, offensive guy, great skill position group in Miami. But the sample isn't huge, but we've seen not anybody can run Miami's offense. Tua can, so he'll get paid. So even though camp is in 2 weeks, it's a little too soon to say it's disrespectful to not pay Tua down in Miami. He'll get the bag. Speaking of a guy who's going to get paid, the story coming out of Team USA practice yesterday, whew, this kid looks good. Cooper Flagg, the phenom, maybe the future face